Welcome to the Sleep to Dream Analytics Explainer video, where better sleep starts with better understanding. Have you ever stopped to think about what your brain is actually doing all night while you're asleep? It's not just powered down. Nope, it's busy. It's running a critical maintenance check, acting like a nightly cleaning crew for your mind. But what happens when that crew just stops showing up? Today, we are diving deep into the really fascinating and honestly pretty unsettling connection between how we sleep and how our brain ages, especially when it comes to dementia. And just to get a sense of the scale here, think about this. For people over the age of 65, the risk of developing dementia literally doubles every 5 years. This isn't some far-off problem for someone else. This is a reality that is touching millions and millions of families. The sheer size of this means we have to understand every single piece of the puzzle. And, well, as we're about to see, sleep might just be one of the most important pieces there is. And this goes so far beyond just numbers on a page. When sleep problems aren't dealt with, they don't just make the symptoms of dementia worse. They can actually speed up that heartbreaking journey towards needing full-time care, towards premature institutionalization. We're talking about a massive, direct hit to a person's quality of life, to their family's well-being, and really to their dignity. So how are we going to break all this down? First, we're going to look at the vicious cycle that connects bad sleep and dementia. Then we'll actually go inside the brain to see what's happening on a cellular level at night. After that, we'll ask a big question: can our sleep patterns be an early warning sign? And finally, we'll look at what can actually be done to fight back. All right, first up, we have got to understand this concept of a vicious sleep cycle. It's basically a destructive feedback loop. See, poor sleep makes dementia symptoms worse. But at the same time, the disease itself is attacking the very parts of the brain that are supposed to control sleep. It's this cruel, two-way street that just leads to a faster and faster decline. And you can see this cycle playing out right here in the numbers. Look at this. About a quarter of patients who have mild to moderate Alzheimer's say they have sleep problems. But then, as the disease gets worse, moving into that moderate to severe stage, that number doubles. 50%. The link is it's undeniable. As dementia gets worse, sleep falls apart, which then just pours more fuel on the fire. And one of the most heartbreaking results of this whole cycle is something called sundowning. It's this state of really intense confusion and agitation that kicks in as evening arrives. The thinking is that it's caused, at least in part, because the brain's internal clock gets destroyed by the disease. The brain, quite literally, starts to lose its ability to tell the difference between day and night. So that brings us to our next big question. Okay, we know the sleep cycle is broken, but to really get it, we need to zoom in. What is physically going on inside an Alzheimer's brain when it's supposed to be sleeping? If you look here, on the left, you see the brain waves of pretty healthy sleep. And on the right, that's the sleep of an Alzheimer's patient. The difference is just, wow, it's dramatic. It's not just that they're getting less deep sleep or less REM sleep. The very building blocks of good sleep, these specific brain waves that are so important for locking in memories, they become weak, disorganized. It's a total breakdown of the entire sleep architecture. So why does that breakdown matter so much? Well, let me introduce you to the glymphatic system. The easiest way to think about it is as your brain's dedicated nightly cleaning crew. It's during that deep sleep that this system kicks into overdrive, flushing out all the junk and toxic proteins that have built up during the day. And yes, that includes amyloid beta, the protein that's so closely linked to Alzheimer's. And here is the absolutely devastating results of that. Less deep sleep means less cleanup time. It's really that simple. That cleaning crew, the glymphatic system, basically gets sent home early every single night. And this allows all those toxic proteins, like amyloid beta, to just sit there and build up, forming plaques and accelerating the very disease that's causing the sleep problem to begin with. Okay, this all leads us to a really fascinating and, kind of scary question. If sleep and dementia are so tangled up, could changes in our sleep actually predict our future risk? Let's take a look at the evidence. So let's just ask it directly. Could our sleep patterns act as a kind of early warning system, a red flag for dementia that shows up years before the more obvious stuff like memory loss ever appears? Well, more and more, the research is pointing to a pretty strong yes, at least in some very specific cases. So let's look at one really powerful example. It's called REM Sleep Behaviour Disorder, or RBD. Now, normally when you're in REM sleep, the dreaming stage, your body is basically paralyzed. It's a safety mechanism, so you don't act out your dreams. But in RBD, that paralysis is gone. So people will physically act out their dreams. And these can be really vivid, really intense, sometimes even violent. And here is the crucial link. Research has shown that RBD is an incredibly powerful early predictor for a whole family of brain diseases caused by a toxic protein. This family includes things like Parkinson's and dementia with Lewy bodies. And what is absolutely wild is that RBD can show up years, sometimes even decades, before any other symptoms. It's one of the earliest warning signs that we know of. So, after all of that, what can we actually do? This brings us to our final section, the practical strategies. Now, this isn't about curing dementia. It's about managing these sleep symptoms to improve a person's quality of life. Experts usually group the problems into 4 main buckets. First, you've got insomnia and just choppy, fragmented sleep. Then you have the opposite problem, being sleepy all the time during the day. Third, there are issues with the body's internal clock, or circadian rhythms. And finally, there's too much movement at night, which is where things like RBD fit in. Now, this is really important. The first line of defense is always stuff that doesn't involve medication. This means getting back to the absolute fundamentals, having a rock-solid, regular sleep schedule, cutting back on things like caffeine, getting more exercise during the day, and even using tools like bright light therapy to help reset that broken internal clock. Now, when those behavioral changes aren't quite enough, medication can be an option. But, and this is a big but, it's not a one-size-fits-all pill. The approach has to be super targeted. For example, a circadian rhythm problem might respond to melatonin, while the dangerous movements you see in RBD might need a totally different drug like clonazepam. It is all about matching the right tool to the exact problem. And we're going to end by coming right back to this quote from the beginning. It's such a powerful reminder of what's at stake here. Managing these sleep issues isn't some minor side problem. It is a critical part of care that can directly decide whether someone can continue to live at home, surrounded by the people they love. And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. We've seen how broken sleep makes dementia worse, and how some sleep problems can even predict it. So the question for every single one of us is this: could actively protecting our sleep, really prioritizing it throughout our lives, could that be one of the most powerful things we can possibly do to protect our minds down the road? The science seems to suggest that's a question we should all be taking very, very seriously. Thank you for watching the Sleep to Dream Analytics Explainer video. We hope you sleep well and dream easy.